फिनाइल भी अवेलेबल है। हम बात कर रहे हैं तो वो तो सिर्फ कॉज नहीं हुआ ना फिर। ऑलराइट, यस। मैं कुछ बताना चाह रहा हूँ, क्रेविंग, अच्छा चलो फाइन। अब जिसको कंपेयर करते हैं, व्हाई एनी वन कमिट सुसाइड, एनी वन कमिट सुसाइड। मैं कुछ बताना चाह रहा हूँ, प्लीज एंजॉय दिस जर्नी नाउ। आई एम टेलिंग यू दिस सब्जेक्ट इज रियली, मैं ब्रैग नहीं कर रहा, but once you are done with the things, you'll feel that something has emerged in you. Yes, why anybody commits suicide? Why you smoke, you got the answers. Why anybody commits suicide? To escape from the existence. Hopelessness, failure, depression, societal pressure, fear. Fine. आप जरा ध्यान से देखो, जब मैंने पूछा वाई एनीबडी स्मोक्स, आपके जितने भी आंसर थे वो फंक्शनल थे। इससे ये होगा, ये होता है, स्ट्रेस खत्म होता है, स्वैग बनता है, एंड और जब मैं पूछ रहा हूँ सुसाइड क्यों करते हैं लोग, तो आपके आंसर्स कॉजल थे। स्ट्रेस हुआ है, फियर आ गया है, ये प्रॉब्लम आ गई है, हेल्पलेसनेस आ गई है, लोनलीनेस आ गया है। कैन यू सी द डिफरेंस? देयर आर टू टाइप्स ऑफ जनरलाइजेशन पॉसिबल। One is called causal, कि what are the causes, and this is called functional, that what are the functions. कुछ चीजें ऐसी हैं, जैसे मैं पूछूं रिलीजन, आप रिलीजन के बारे में जो कुछ भी बोलोगे, it will be functional. There is no reason to say why religion emerged. Whatever you'll say is functional. Take a time. And why stock market crashed, whatever reason you'll say is causal. Now read the line. Economics focuses on causal generalization mostly, while other things in sociology, it could be either of the type. Causal भी हो सकता है, functional भी हो सकता है, depending, because we are talking generic. Right. So this way, when we talk about, don't worry, suicide आपके syllabus में है. Emile Durkheim was the one who studied about it, and he gave a sociological interpretation, not the psychological. क्योंकि आप सबने psychological बोला. Factors are not psychological. Factors are not otherwise why when the chief minister passed away in Andhra, people committed suicide? I don't know whether I'm knowing it or not. When big celebrity dies, people commit suicide. This is a very interesting fact. In fact, I'm worried what will happen when Rajnikant will die. आप उस रोप्स नहीं बिकेंगी पूरे तमिलनाडु में, जस्ट वेट एंड वॉच। अभी आपको बात मेरी अजीब लग सकती है, ropes and the any such things, it will be banned for a while. It will be. So वो होता है, वो it's very natural, वो समझेंगे तो we have a different perspective altogether. That's why they had picked up, और वो एक नई तरीके से चीज़ों को भी देखा. So suicide cannot be experimental. Obviously suicide is not, in fact, अच्छा यहीं पे देखिए, ये भी बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. मैंने इतना तो पूछ लिया आपसे कि वाई वन कमिट सुसाइड, थोड़ा सा अगर और आगे बढ़ूं, व्हाट इज सुसाइड, जरा इसको भी डिफाइन कर ही दीजिए आप. व्हाट इज सुसाइड, कहते किसे हैं सुसाइड? व्हेन यू नो दैट दिस एक्ट विल रिजल्ट इन किलिंग योरसेल्फ. ये बहुत किसी को जस्ट टू बी हीरोइक जंप फ्रॉम द बिल्डिंग एंड डाइड, दैट्स नॉट सुसाइड. When the doer is knowing that this act will result into the death of the individual. Making sense? So ये छोटी छोटी बातें हैं जो आपको, तो जब हम इकोनॉमिक्स की बात करते हैं, इकोनॉमिक्स लार्जली फोकस अपॉन कॉजल जनरलाइजेशन, वाइल ये बेसिक डिफरेंस आपको दिखेगा बिटवीन इकोनॉमिक्स एंड सोशियोलॉजी. इवन इन डेवलपमेंटल इकोनॉमिक्स वी फोकस मोर ऑन कॉजल जनरलाइजेशन. Poverty की ये causes हैं, and this is how it is, and that's how the data, and so. So this is how we got when we talk about how they are similar, how they are different. Now you can write further that. This or these two branches जो भी, the sociology and economics, this sociology and economics are collectively growing interdisciplinary, or collectively growing interdisciplinary, collectively growing interdisciplinary, interdisciplinary, where a new branch called developmental economics, a new branch called developmental economics, developmental economics has emerged, has emerged, has emerged, which initially started with, feminist perspective. सबसे पहले feminist perspective इसमें दिखा था. I don't know whether you're knowing it or not, but around 1920s, 30s in UK, we got massive protests on the street by females against these economic subjugations. पहली बार 1920s, 30s में they started demanding that our work should be acknowledged and we should be also given, in fact there was a concept called that there should be certain kind of tax imposed on the husband to be distributed to the household wife for economic financial freedom. So that is where, that's why somebody was saying rightly that epicenter of developmental economics was feminist approach. So वहाँ से हमने फिर we started thinking कि नहीं. Now you can write that. ये सिर्फ आपकी जानकारी के लिए है, जरूरी नहीं कि इस आंसर में आप लिखें with a feminist approach. You can write that. In 1970s, in 1970s, it was realized that growth is not an end in itself. Growth is not an end in itself, but a mean to another end, that is development. But a mean to another end, that is development. Development. यहाँ पर आपको convergence दिखाई पड़ेगा. Similarly, there is another branch called behavioral economics. Branch called behavioral economics. Another branch called behavioral economics, which highlights upon behavioral economics, which highlights upon the aspects of social interaction determining aspects of social interactions determining economic behavior and decisions. आपको पता है, you will be surprised and you are not going to believe me, I know. But even कौन सा song play किया जाए किस brand की shop पर, that is well researched. We have data that people buy more while listening this song. That's how it's data driven. We get detailed data. Researches are being done that if these kind of songs are played, people will buy this way. So we portray this way. We portray the very idea that how. So look deliberately. Next time when you go, as sales are going on these days on the streets, if you see that in any mall, these are the days of sale. If you go on sale, any sale shop, you might notice one thing. Adjoining to it, somewhere they are putting their latest brand just to contrast, so that when it is most important day of your life, you should be buying that one also. Everything is well researched. Window shopping kitni honi chahiye, what should be the idea. In fact, I don't know, आगे हम अल्लाह की बात करेंगे इस पे, लेकिन 2012 और 13 का नोबेल प्राइज है. वी डिड ए स्टडी. इनफैक्ट एक पूरी थ्योरी इकोनॉमिक्स में कॉल गेम थ्योरी, विच इज बेस्ड ऑन दिस ओनली. इट वाज स्टार्टेड दिस वे. जॉन नैश ने एक्चुअली ऐसे ही देखा था कि लेट्स से देयर आर 6 पेयर्स ऑफ boys and what you can say girlfriend boyfriend, 6 pairs, each of them were in their pair. There was one fellow, this John Nash, alone, and then there was another lady who was also alone. Being obviously data driven, he was calculating what is his probability. If each of them are loyal to their partners, how much will be the probability, and if they are not, what will be the probability. अब यहां से एक बात समझ में आई. Despite the fact that each of the member, and I hope I'm dealing with the mature class, that eventually will become after the subject, trust me. Mature means scientific temperament. Each pair was having a natural attraction towards other members. But despite that attraction, why they were staying together? What were those factors? ये थ्योरी बड़ी काम की आई. यहां से हम ब्रांड लॉयल्टी बनाते हैं. We work a lot on brand loyalty. कि भाई आपके पास तो multiple options हैं. How you can stay to our brand only? हमें वो factor पता है कि despite the fact that you might be attracted towards other, still you stay here. हमें से मतलब है those who are doing these kind of research in the market. Can you see that entire thing has become social behavior oriented? कि आपका social behavior. So Nobel Prize was given on this finding. That what are those reasons that despite the fact that they're attracted towards other members, they are staying with their corresponding members in the relationship. You might be attracted elsewhere, yet why you're staying together in that relationship? अगर हम ये पता चल जाए तो मैं brand loyalty बनाने में बड़ा आसानी हो जाएगा. So that is what people are doing. A lot of research is going on in these fields. So ये सब क्या है? This is telling us that how sociology and economics has led to a new kind of thing called behavioral economics. इस पे थोड़ा सा एक हम जिक्र करेंगे. और when I'll talk about that, what is the future? एक सवाल उन्होंने पूछा है आपके पेपर 1 में, do you think that live-in can replace marriages? So we'll figure out why not and why yes. उस चैप्टर में एक बार दोबारा इस रिसर्च पे आऊँगा और कुछ चीज़ें वहाँ बात करेंगे. पूरा एक चैप्टर है आपके उसमें तो सिलेबस में. बट देन इवन यू शुड बी अवेयर ऑफ एट लीस्ट दैट हाउ it has led to a new discipline called behavioral economics. So that's how we got initially what you said, developmental economics, and then we got a new discipline called behavioral economics. So what's the last line? The economic behavior or decisions. So this is how we got in general when we say relationship between sociology and economics. Similarly, if we look into relationship between sociology and political science. Now, what is political science? Political science, as I told you, is पहले सुन लेते हैं. Same यही वहाँ पे भी follow करेंगे. Political science is the scientific study of what? Distribution of power and authority. That how power is distributed, what are the factors responsible for distribution of power and authority, how political institutions are built, how system of governance are there. And on the other hand, sociology is talking about overall generic idea. Overall generic idea that how patterns of... तो पहली line तो सब में common रहेगी. In all the answers is going to be common. That it is talking about, it's a general scientific study of society, and second is a particular study of that particular dimension. Now, sociology and political science, they come closer in a way because obviously, if you see the beginning of sociology was largely guided by political ideas. Largely guided by political ideas, and it was believed that political ideas has power to change the structure and institutions of the society. Remember, that's why I told you one of the biggest outcome was when when we came to know that power can be changed. It is not something divine, and there should be separation of power. So these things are very important why sociology could emerge. So sociology and political science that way are closer, so that at least one is saying that what is about power and how that is. In fact, एक बहुत क्लीशे लाइन है, चाहे तो यूज करिएगा, मेरे ख्याल से तो अवॉइड ही करिएगा, क्योंकि सभी उसको लिख रहे होंगे दैट सोशियोलॉजी ट्रीट्स individual as social animal and political science treats individual as political animal. It's a cliche line. बहुत सुन लिया है इस लाइन को इतना कि मतलब it has lost its vigor. But yes, in political science, if we go back, and as we know that in the Renaissance itself, political science was solicited, which resulted into the emergence of sociology. But technically speaking, you can say with the contribution of Max Weber, sociology and political science came very close, and it was realized that these two subjects are quite interconnected. Without understanding the political dimension, the complete fabric of the society cannot be understood. That is what is the whole idea of Max Weber. So Max Weber started talking this way. Even if you see that writers, various other writers, even in political science also has this opinion that चाहे बात करें हटिंगटन की or many of them, they all believe that unless until you have better understanding of society, you cannot figure out that what determines sovereignty of the state and how that sovereignty can be continued. But एक लाइन जो शायद आपको एक एज दे सकती है इस तरह के आंसर में, that is by Habermas. Habermas was the man who in a way said कि both of them, because power is something which is not, जैसे इस क्लास में भी you had given me power, but this is not permanent, that is once given forever. It is always dynamic depending upon social aspects. So political science is always incomplete unless until they are understanding the dimensions of, अब ये Habermas का technical term है, dimensions of legitimacy and legitimacy crisis. जैसे आप मुझे सुन रहे हो, एक legitimacy है, but ये कब तक बनी रहेगी, how long it will be there, what are those factors which are governing it, ये सब, this is what we consider to be subject matter of sociology. Without that, political science is always incomplete. Simply putting, political science is about laws, state, sovereignty, and other things, while sociology is understanding all those things which are governing these laws, patterns, and such like. So this way we got sociology and political science, but both the disciplines has become very interdisciplinary at two places. जैसे मैं अभी थोड़ी देर पहले scope में बोल रहा था. One is that sociology and political science are now closer in this context that there is one thing called public policy. Public policy is a complete subject, that what should be the policies of any country, how they should be designed. Public policy means all these policies which are made by government for the overall betterment of the people. Public policies are very much driven from sociological understanding. तो इंडिया की जितनी भी प्लानिंग है, अगर आप देखोगे, that was very much driven from sociological understanding. That's why planning commission में we had huge number of sociologists right from the beginning, महानलोबिस से लेके आज तक. So developmental policy, public policy approach is something which has brought political science and sociology very interconnected. तो बात लगभग वैसी ही है. यही 3-4 बातें आपको ध्यान रखनी, that you should be writing. तो थोड़ा फटाफट लिख लेते हैं उसको. क्या टाइम हो गया? आपको ब्रेक की जरूरत होगी. अभी तो टाइम है, इसको लिख लेते हैं, then क्योंकि I would like to finish this topic today now, what's called sociology and common sense, so that we can finish the chapter, and then we'll move towards thinkers. Now you can write that. I'm deliberately going very slow, I'm aware of it. Slow in the sense कि topic wise slow, बाकी तो बातें बहुत सारी हो रही हैं, but I really want you to gradually step into the subject. I hope I'm making sense. कितने लोग हैं जिनको बिल्कुल ऊपर उड़ जा रहा है? नहीं सर, raise your hands. Be honest to yourself. You're not here to impress others. Fine. Sociology and common sense, you can write that. Sociology and political science, in that you can write. Sociology, अब वो लाइन बार बार है तो मैं फटाफट उसको बोल दे रहा हूँ. Sociology is the scientific study of, चाहे तो डैश डैश करके ऊपर लिख लीजिएगा. Sociology is the scientific study of, sociology is the scientific study of patterns of social interactions, social institutions and their processes, social interaction, social institutions and social processes, and social processes, and social processes, social processes in a given society, in a given society, in a given society, and therefore generic in nature, and therefore generic in nature. On the other hand, therefore generic in nature, on the other hand, political sciences, on the other hand, political sciences, scientific study of, ये भी scientific है, political science भी is scientific study of distribution of power and authority, distribution of power and authority, distribution of power and authority, system of governance, system of governance, system of governance, and the factors affecting, and the factors affecting them, factors affecting them. In general, the emergence of sociology, in general, the emergence of sociology is traced back, in general, emergence of sociology can be traced back, emergence of sociology can be traced back to new political ideas, new political ideas, can be traced back to the new political ideas, and therefore it can be concluded that among early sociologists, the subject matter of political science, subject matters of political science was of great importance, in sociology, was of great importance in sociology. For example, Herbert Spencer himself highlighted, Herbert Spencer himself highlighted that in a given social structure, that part is very important which controls. That part is very important which controls. I hope you can recall Herbert Spencer said what? Social structure is characterized by three things: something to produce, something to control, something to redistribute. याद है? That's how we have this. So Herbert Spencer का ये कहना है कि ये कुछ brain जैसा, brain controls. So this way he believed this way that it is the control which determines. So Herbert Spencer, among the early sociologists, was of this opinion. According to Max Weber, now, according to Max Weber, according to Max Weber, sociology and political science, according to Max Weber, sociology and political science, sociology and political science are almost inseparable, because various institutions of a society, are largely governed by political ideas, and therefore without understanding those political ideas, society cannot be explained. Society cannot be explained. तो जो पहला सब्जेक्ट मैटर है पॉलिटिकल साइंस का, what is trying to say कि without understanding political science you cannot understand society well, because end of the day all institutions are driven by the political ideas. Like these days classrooms are driven by democratic values, so we are different. Earlier they might be given by religious values, so they were different. So unless and until you are not understanding that what are those political ideas on which social institutions are built, जो सब्जेक्ट मैटर है आपका पॉलिटिकल साइंस का, तो आप कभी समझ ही नहीं पाओगे एग्जैक्टली हाउ सोशियोलॉजी इज. नाउ on the other hand, Habermas, in fact ये आदमी, I personally like him very much. अगर मैं थोड़ा इसको पराकुअल ले जाऊं थोड़ा कॉमन लाइफ में, Habermas is saying हर रिलेशन में, हर जगह पर there is always some crisis, some doubt, and that's why, let's say A and B having some doubt within their relationship, this can be called as legitimacy crisis. Right? तो ऐसा नहीं कि आप किसी को बिल्कुल ही भरोसा कर लेते. There is always some pinch of salt, right? So इसलिए there's a line in Urdu that says, अक्सर वो कहते हैं मेरे अपने हैं, अक्सर क्यों कहते हैं हैरत होती. Some pinch of salt. This is called legitimacy crisis. Now listen, if A and B is having this legitimacy crisis and A did something wrong, this legitimacy crisis will deepen. If A did something right or corrected whatever problem is, this legitimacy crisis will be reduced, but it will always remain. And that's why Habermas समझ जाएंगे तो एक ही समझ में आ जाएगी लाइफ में. Even in very good days, keep this in mind. This relationship may change. So सिर्फ उतना ही बताइए जितना जरूरी हो. Don't share each and everything. ये पॉलिटिकल निगोशिएशन की पहली वैल्यू होती है. आप तो मामले को कहीं और ले गए, लेकिन पॉलिटिकल निगोशिएशन का पहला राय होता है कि वी शुड बी ओनली टॉकिंग अबाउट दोज थिंग्स व्हिच आर ऑन द एजेंडा. डोंट गो हियर एंड देयर. It's always there. We thought initially democracy got established. No. There's always some element of crisis. There's nothing called absolute distribution of power, authority, and so and so. There is always some amount of legitimacy crisis, and the legitimacy crisis is governed by social factor. तो अभी उल्टा बोल रहे हैं. Habermas is saying, unless and until you're understanding the factors of society, you cannot understand the distribution of power एग्जैक्टली कि क्राइसिस किस वजह से आ रही है. So 2017, these people voted in Sri Lanka with thump-in majority. And 2020, 2022, remember what they did? Finally reaching 2023, thrown them away. And almost controlled the president house. Look at the story, what happened. Legitimacy crisis reached to, and that's why even in democracy or even in any relationship, अगर हम उस democracy को एक relationship मान ले, a kind of social contract, so there are enough of signals to understand the crisis is reaching at a threshold. वो आपको पता चलता है, और अगर आपको thresholds पता है कि this is where it's reaching to threshold, you know how to overcome to it. So this is how we got this idea of what is called, Habermas is saying the importance of legitimacy crisis clearly indicates that political science is incomplete without understanding the social patterns of interaction and those things which might govern this legitimacy crisis. Now you can write that written. On the other hand, Habermas is of the opinion that इसलिए practical advice है, always keep few things, maybe a person, maybe a thing, maybe any incidents, some good memory to reduce the legitimacy crisis when needed. Negotiation में ही करते हैं. अब हम रशिया के पास गए negotiation में, तो हम क्या लेके गए उनके लिए? Something which may bring Russia and India further closer. Isn't it? So आपको पता होना चाहिए what should be considered, as in IR you consider this, कि if I'm going to a particular country, तो what I should be considering. तो वहाँ पे कुछ ऐसा रहा होगा, there must be something which has brought India and Russia closer, that is your souvenir, कि सर वो आपके लिए लेके आए थे. तो do know what is the favorite food, favorite, maybe dining out place. So there are various ways through which it is established. So that is how we got when we say legitimacy crisis and how it can be managed. There are ways out to manage it. और यही पूरा IR में पूरी theories actually इसी के इर्द गिर्द हैं. You should be understanding that what are those factors which are cushioning this legitimacy. It can be increased or reduced depending upon. और उल्टा भी है. If you want to get segregated, you know which buttons to press. So this is how. इसीलिए कभी भी आप चाइना से ऐसे मत बोलिए. While talking to China, you should not be talking that China is. We should say, despite several differences in last 30-40 years, India and China has long history from the Buddhist time. That's how we talk. आप कभी देखिएगा wordings कैसे पिक की जा रही हैं. और भाई पाकिस्तान से, this is not acceptable. The terrorism and talks cannot be together. अब देख लो क्या बोल रहे हो आप, बोल कहाँ रहे हो? दोनों गवर्नमेंट की स्टेटमेंट्स हैं जो मैंने आपसे बोले. What we are saying, depending upon what we want in this particular context, what we want in that particular context, in which direction we want to go. So Habermas is saying this way it is interconnected. Now you can write that is of the opinion that the distribution of power is dynamic and is characterized by varying degree. Varying means कम ज़्यादा होती. Varying degree of legitimacy crisis. Varying degree of legitimacy crisis. Legitimacy crisis. And therefore, without understanding, the factors responsible for legitimacy crisis, in bracket, which is subject matter of sociology, which is subject matter of sociology, which is subject matter of sociology, subject matter of sociology. Political science cannot be, political science cannot be explained तो तीन नाम यहां पर भी हैं. कौन कौन से? We got three names. Herbert Spencer to start with for the starters, and then we got Max Weber, and then we got Habermas. Habermas is from the modern times, and that's how. Almost similar opinion we have. अभी यहाँ पे मैं नहीं बोल रहा, but बाद में when we'll talk about called risk society, then you also can talk about it, that how the things are. Now, you can write that. Just एक line में इसको खत्म कर लेते हैं. You can write further that even the very constitution of India, even the very constitution of India, even the very constitution of India, very constitution of India seems to be an interdisciplinary document, seems to be an interdisciplinary document encompassing subject matters of sociology and political science. Subject matter of sociology and political science. Sociology and political science. Political science. Right. These days, both the disciplines are converging. These days, both the disciplines are converging. Both the disciplines are converging in forms of converging in forms of, first is what you can say, public policy, where sociological understanding अब से एक छोटा सा एग्जाम्पल मैं पब्लिक पॉलिसी का दूं तो शायद बात और क्लियर हो. आई नो आप लोग ब्रेक के लिए थोड़ा रेस्टलेस हो रहे हो, लेकिन देन इवन ना, you know what, India is a country which is characterized by, if I could say this way, India is the country which is having it is the first country to have population control policy. India is first country to have population control policy way back in 1952 and has become first in population now. Something went wrong. We were thinking politically. On this subject matter, that people are unaware, people are not knowing, they are not understanding, and even some people started saying, let's have forced tubectomy, vasectomy. As you know, during emergency, India was also characterized by forced tubectomy and vasectomy. Almost similar understanding was in Europe. Then there was a fellow, his name is, he wrote a book called Geography of Hunger. Gustave de Castro is the name of that fellow. And he studied and he found something very surprising. Gustave de Castro's finding was used in India also. In 1989, when India's population was still not being controlled, though southern India was controlling now, northern India was yet not. So in 1989, M.S. Swaminathan, later M.S. Swaminathan, you know, he was given this task. Identify what are the reasons and why our population policies are not working despite so much of money we have spent on it. For the first time, door-to-door survey was done. Year was 1993. एक-एक दरवाजे पे गए. And we use what Gustave de Castro's theory was, sociological theory. We went to every doorstep and we asked people, are not you aware of hum do hamare do? That was our population control policy, that two adults should have 2 kids. They said, we are aware of. Then why you're having more than 2 kids? Each parent had one common answer. बाकी तो answers अलग अलग थे, but एक answer सबका common था. That what if 1 or 2 die, at least 1 or 2 will survive. Reason कहाँ था, हम ढूंढ कहाँ रहे थे. And in 1994, MS Swaminathan submitted report. If India want to control population, our approach should be antenatal, not antenatal. Not controlling birth, but to make sure no child dies. And the moment we made that policy, within 10 years, India's population started control. Isn't public policy so much dependent on sociological findings? Even, look, that's what the point is. So, considering this, it is very significant that we should not be taking it inseparable. So, public policy is where all the policies are now being made considering social factors in mind. So, what you've written? The complete line. उसमें with a sociological understanding, and therefore with the sociological understanding, and therefore in any desired change at political level, sociological inputs are considered. हम उस डायरेक्शन में सोचते हैं कि यहाँ उससे क्या क्या होगा. Similarly, there is another discipline called political sociology. Similarly, there is another discipline called political sociology, which tries to figure out the reasons and analysis of various political institutions and emerging issues. जैसे एक छोटा सा एग्जाम्पल मैं आपको कहूं, आपको क्या लगता है, this Anna Hazare movement was movement against corruption only? No. It was movement against this thing that state is not listening to us. People are unhappy with this. कि state हमारी सुन नहीं रहा. And that's why you'll be trained in your system. कि agitation हो रहा है, movement हो रहा है, और कुछ नहीं करिए, listen to them. Even the farmers' protest is primarily because they are angry that you have not considered our opinion to make such big policies. अगर आप पूरा एंगर देखो तो एक्चुअली एपीसेंटर यहाँ पे है. Epicenter is here. So, what do you think? Apparently, it looked like that it's a movement for corruption. No, it was not movement against corruption. It was movement that how state how state is not participative, why state is becoming so despotic, arrogant. इसलिए सिस्टम में कहा भी जाता है कि आपको बताया जाएगा कि अगर कोई बहुत गुस्से में आए तो सिर्फ उसकी बात सुन लीजिए, भले आप कुछ करिए मत, the fellow will be happy. Somebody enters in your office with all anger. अच्छा, आपकी बात नहीं कर रहा, ऐसे कैसे? अब ये बताता हूँ उसको. You know nothing will happen. But then even. So it is very important to understand in political sociology what we understand. Your actually seventh topic is that only, political sociology. Why nation? Why state? What is agitation, protest? Why? What happened in Spring Revolution, if you remember? Gaddafi. People were angry on Gaddafi. And why they were angry on Gaddafi? Not because Libya was dying. पता नहीं आप कितना जानते हो, that time Libya was dying. Libya was going through massive crisis. अभी श्रीलंका में क्या हुआ? People are not angry just because we don't have resources. They are angry that our bosses are not listening to us. We are in crisis and they are roaming here and there, enjoying what is called all the royal benefits. So Gaddafi wale case mein pura momentum was because people were unhappy, they did not have food, basic resources, and then Gaddafi's son, who was in Cambridge that time, ordered his father that I want a Rolls Royce and a Rolex, golden Rolex. There was some communication lag in the telephone, and the father heard something else. After a fortnight, a golden Rolls Royce was delivered. And this was the turning point. When this came on YouTube, things got changed. This is where social media will, how determining the power. Why social media is the fourth pillar now? Because it is determining legitimacy. समझेंगे इन सब चीजों को. So now we have understood it's a complete branch called political sociology, which tries to understand that ये सारे factors कैसे काम करते हैं so that power is established, so that other things are there. So ये political sociology बहुत, that's why I told you कि while introducing the syllabus on the day one, मैंने कोई से बात कही थी कि अगर आपको 7 topic ठीक-ठीक समझ में आ गया, तो trust me आपके second paper में you will have at least plus 20 marks than the average. क्योंकि फिर आपको questions की nuances समझ में आएंगी कि question actually पूछ क्या रहा है. In the second paper, what they are trying to ask, what they are trying to figure out. So we have understood this thing in political. So दो नए discipline है, वैसे तो बहुत सारे हैं, but these two are the major one जो अलग से पढ़ाए भी जाते हैं. That is public policy, and second is what you can say political sociology. So political sociology differentiate this way. So you can write for that. Thus to conclude, हाँ सर बिल्कुल एक line So thus to conclude, it can be said. So to conclude, it can be said that while political science is about it can be said that political science is about laws, distribution of power, and therefore with specific domain, with the conclusion high specific particular, therefore with specific domain of inquiry, treating individuals as political animal, On the other hand, sociology analyzes factors responsible for it. Treating individuals as social animal. Right? So that's how we got. ये आंध्र बेती वाली book है. Which book is this? अच्छा, Development as Freedom, Amartya Sen. So this is how we got when we talk about political science and sociology. Let's take a quick break. On the other side of the break, we'll first discuss about sociology common sense and even the questions, and eventually we'll try to finish the writing part also. Thank you. All right, so anything to ask? What about sociology and history? Yes, we are going to write that now. So, sir, you said that sociology and political science are encompassed in constitution. Can we say the same for sociological economic as the part of developmental inclusive growth? To some extent, yes. But if you watch carefully, fundamental rights, which is often called the backbone, is something which is more of socio-political, right? Your economic dimensions are viewed in DPSP mode. Fine, but it can be said. अगर कोई word नहीं आ रहा तो काम आ जाएगा, ऐसा कोई दिक्कत नहीं है एग्जाम में. One of the classical example which I can say, अगर आपके ऊपर है, अगर आप चाहें तो use कर सकते हैं, where we have seen that how in Indian political understanding, sociological context became very significant, especially what Rajni Kothari did. He was the one who studied what is called vote bank politics. The entire political system of India, the distribution of power revolves around one thing called vote. And that's why M.N. Srinivas is in his syllabus. A very interesting fact hai, 1956, Nehru went to one of the universities in USA, and he was speaking on a public platform. He was saying what government of India has done, various social reforms. Within next 15 years, caste will disappear from India. A fellow who was doing PhD there, 1956, rose his hand. He said, 100, you say 15 years? I bet for 150 years. That caste is going to stay in India. Nehru was surprised. He asked, young man, what is your line of argument? Why you are thinking so? He said, because what you had made in that, people are not casting their vote, they are voting their, actually, he said, in India now people are not casting their vote, they are voting their caste. So we don't cast our vote, we vote our caste. And that's the reason, and that fellow was M.N. Srinivas, who was eventually in your syllabus. So M.N. Srinivas was very right. Rajni Kothari is very right. So India ka to pura, you cannot imagine. That's why in India it's very important. What is name? Sunil. Sunil what? The surname matters, Sunil what? But then at the same time, as I told you, it has reduced in our social domain. You only recall during elections, during these kind of things. So this is how, when we talk about vote bank politics and these are classical examples that how political science is incomplete and very shallow without sociological understanding. Without sociological understanding, that's how we got, in fact, चाहे तो आप note में लिख सकते हो यहाँ पे, just for input, कि as a note you can write that, in Indian scenario, Rajni Kothari's analysis of vote bank politics, Rajni Kothari's analysis of vote bank politics, Rajni Kothari's analysis of vote bank politics is a classical example of political sociology. Right? So that's how we got when we talk about sociology and political science. Now the next subject is sociology and history. Sociology and history. As I told you already, but before I come to history, I would like to ask one more thing, तो थोड़ा और synchronization हो जाएगा. In India, unemployment is an individual problem or a social problem? अजीब बात है, आदमी incompetent है That's why he's unemployed. Opportunities are not there. Individuals are not incompetent. Opportunities are not there. And even if you scrutinize further, why individuals are incompetent? Skills has not been given. Mismatch between the demand and supply. Can you see this way? आप कर क्या रहे हो? Are not you connecting your personal problems with the social fabric? As if your personal problems are because of the social fabric? यहाँ तो मैंने unemployment का same is the case even with divorce. People think divorce has increased because of social reasons. हाँ बड़े भाई साहब सोशल मीडिया ने बड़ा कवाड़ा कर दिया, रिश्ते खराब होते जा रहे हैं. Can't you see? अरे सिनेमा ने बिगाड़ दिया बच्चों को. What we are doing is we are trying to understand individual things even with the social context. कर रहे हैं कि नहीं? Similarly, even how a structure should be, how a social structure should be, what are the reasons why these kind of social structures are. कोई particular social structure है तो ऐसे क्यों बना है? Why we are having, let's say, this kind of system where people are more into urban areas, less into, or moving to urban areas, why female has to move away. When you're understanding all these problems, you are using your skill. One of the skills which C. Wright Mills is a very big name, C. Wright Mills, again, one of my favorites, उसका reason है क्योंकि C. Wright Mills का मानना था कि actually is a placement. C. Wright Mills used a term for it called the sociological imagination. It's a very famous phrase. What is sociological imagination? Sociological imagination is our capacity to imagine a society, its social structure, that how the social structure is, why it was, and we can make an image in our mind, are not we? So when we are looking at American society, when we are looking at any other society, what we are doing is we are using our sociological imagination, that why those societies are like that, what could be the reasons behind it. So he said that there is one thing called sociological imagination through which we can understand personal things to society, we can connect it, we can understand that why particular kind of social structures emerge in any given setup, how they do change, even how you realized that I was just giving example of Gaddafi. So when I was giving example of Gaddafi, you all were accepting, हाँ सर गुस्सा तो किसी को भी आ जाएगा. तो वो जो थोड़ा सा गुस्सा आपको आया कि गद्दाफी ने ऐसा क्यों किया, that's sociological imagination. Because of that you can justify what they did was wrong when they threw away Gaddafi, when they threw away president in Sri Lanka. This sociological imagination is very important for history. You cannot understand history without sociological imagination. आप चले नहीं जाते उस time में, ancient time में, in the time of bows and arrows, when you're studying this history, you go there. Use your sociological imagination. You understand why society was like that and why it got changed. Why it got changed. That's why, as Howard rightly called it, I told you in the previous class also, that is a very famous quote, that sociology is history of present and history is sociology of past. And that is because we are having this idea of sociological imagination. So this concept of sociological imagination is very useful to understand how history and sociology are interconnected. Had not been there sociological understanding, perhaps understanding history would have been very difficult. In fact, the way we are, abhi history बहुत improve हो गई पहले से. Our history is improving, the way our sociological imagination is also changing. एक छोटा सा example लेते हैं. I don't know, आप यहाँ से तो क्लास नहीं देख पा रहोगे. अगर मैं इस क्लास की एक फोटोग्राफ ले लूँ, let's say I took a pic of this class, and after 1,000 years, somebody is watching this photograph. What conclusion that fellow is going to make? मैं आपसे पूछ रहा हूँ, आपको मैं एक फोटोग्राफ दिखाऊं आज के 1000 साल बाद, let's go in time machine, and this is the classroom. क्या conclusion draw करोगे आप? You can take a look of the class around if you feel like. बच्चे पढ़ रहे हैं रियली? दो बायस, एक तो अपने आप को बच्चा समझ रहे हैं और दूसरा पढ़ रहे हैं. नो, बोथ द बायसेस, ऑल राइट. बाय द वे, हाँ, यस. Very good. Chalo, agreed. Point, valid point. How things are arranged. A gathering of people. Clothing. नहीं, I'm asking something. I want to establish something in you. Because look, मैं फिर कह रहा हूँ. And trust me, it's not a assembly line thing कि आपसे as it is question पूछा जाएगा और they are getting more analytical. और अगर आपको सच में, if you want to go, I hope you are sitting here, you must be having that aspiration to be in the job. So उसके लिए थोड़ा सा you have to stretch the leg. आपको थोड़ा सा तो, एंड दिस इज व्हाट आई एम ट्राइंग एट, वर्किंग एट. नहीं तो बहुत इजी था मेरे लिए, हाँ ये रहा सोशियोलॉजी हिस्ट्री लिख लो, ये रहा ये लिख लो. आई नो दिस इज नॉट गोइंग टू वर्क. इतना आसान नहीं हो, इतना आसान होता फिर तो थिंग्स वुड हैव बीन मच इजियर देन. यस, एनीवन, जो भी आपने सबने किया सब सही थे. इट्स नॉट अबाउट बीइंग राइट एंड रॉन्ग. You all were right. What you did, you use your sociological imagination. अब कोई भी कह सकता है इस क्लास को देख के कि the population was more in that area, the way seats are interconnected, the way seats are arranged. Western classrooms are not like that. They have enough of space. Anyone can say there was some kind of demographical imbalance, but I think girls are not less. If I don't know the maths, but seems almost equal. Yes. Yeah, even our way of clothing, the way we look at various things. आप किसी भी चीज़ पे कोई भी कह सकता है this was very technology driven class, the way technologies were there. This was something where maybe gender disparity was relatively lesser, gender inequality is lesser. अगर ये क्लासरूम देखूं और मैं अपने टाइम में याद करूं, in our times we had particular place. लड़कियां यहाँ आगे बैठेंगी, लड़के पीछे बैठेंगे. You know, first the girls will take exit, then boys will take exit. तो वहाँ लड़कियों के पीछे वाली सीट पे कौन बैठेगा, इसकी मारा मारी होती थी. So look, obviously societies were different that time. अभी comparative analysis मिल रही है. This is something which is giving us a comparative analysis that how the things might have changed. So कोई कह सकता है population ज़्यादा रही होगी. Anyone can say the teacher was probably having higher authority, the way arrangement is. आपको क्या लग रहा है ये scale up ऐसे रखा जाता है? It has a purpose. It establishes authority. इसलिए हमेशा मंच ऊपर रखते हैं. You know, this has a reason for it. So everything works in a particular fashion, and this is what we can do. इसको content analysis भी बोलते हैं. This is one of the ways to look at realities of a given time. हमने इस सब में क्या किया? Sociological imagination use किया. कैसे use किया? We tried to understand social structure. We try to understand social structure by having certain predefined you can say yardsticks. That is why even you can say when it comes to sociology and history, they are very much interconnected in a way, because obviously without having historical continuity and comparison, perhaps there is no point of understanding society. You need to understand how societies have evolved. Remember Herbert Spencer, Contemporary Fossils? That we should try to understand that how institutions have emerged. So we cannot conclude that how these social institutions has emerged unless and until we are having historical comparison with sociological imagination. ये पूरी line है. Making sense? So that's how sociology and history are interconnected, and you can say, in fact, most of the historians these days are those who are using these things more than often, and that's why, you know, looking at various societies in the historical context, how they were, how we have evolved, we are using what various sociological imaginations to understand that how various institutions has emerged, how they have changed, what was the reason why have changed, what were the factors responsible for what they have changed. So this way we got when we talk about what is called, so history is something which you can say more normative, is descriptive, while sociology for that matter is more analytical. So thoda sa we can write it side by side. You can write that sociology and history. अब वो पहली लाइन तो क्लीशे लाइन है लेकिन लिखना पड़ेगा. You can quickly write that sociology is the scientific study of blah, blah, blah. Sociology is the scientific study of social interactions, social institutions, social interactions, social institutions, social interactions, social institutions, 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 and social processes in a given society, social processes in a given society, in a given society, and is generic in nature, is generic in nature. On the other hand, history is, अब मैं साइंटिफिक नहीं बोल रहा हूँ, हिस्ट्री इज सिस्टमेटिक स्टडी ऑफ, सिस्टमेटिक स्टडी ऑफ, हिस्ट्री इज, हिस्ट्री के लिए साइंटिफिक थोड़ा सा ज्यादा वैल्यूडेड टर्म हो जाएगा. हिस्ट्री इज सिस्टमेटिक स्टडी ऑफ societies, societies of the past, of the past, along with factors responsible for continuity and change, along with factors responsible for continuity and change, factors responsible for continuity and change. I don't know whether knowing there was a writer called Allama Iqbal. Have you heard of it? Iqbal, history, you might have read his name. Allama Iqbal, in short. He wrote a very famous quote, ना, सारे जहां सच्चा हिंदोस्तां हमारा, कुछ बात है कि हस्ती मिटती नहीं हमारी, सदियों रहा है दुश्मन दौरे जहां हमारा. अगर आप उसको ध्यान से पढ़ें तो there was a line कि how the civilizations of Yunnan, Egypt, how civilizations Arab all discontinued and we continued. We continued. और as it is question है आपके prelims उसमें GS में. While the Egyptian, Mesopotamian civilization discontinued, India remained a continued society. फिर क्या, that's what, अगर आपको लग रहा है कि नहीं किसी prescriptive format में क्वेश्चन किसी ने सोचा होगा तो this is where you have to be stretch the leg. In fact, बहुत सारी बातें हैं, with due respect, कई बार तो जैसे I personally believe instead of calling it art and culture, we should be calling it history and culture. क्योंकि art is a very specific term in that case. But मैं कुछ claim नहीं कर रहा, I'm not saying anything, नहीं तो आपसे सर ने कहा था. But the point is कि when it comes to history, what we are doing is we are having the detailing of the past and what are those reasons through which these things continued and what are those reasons through which things changed. Now look, southern India has more continuity. Even from the Kumbham's time, it's still the same methodology. And northern India went on changing and getting influenced by every new civilization and culture because of massive influx. So these things are what we are trying to understand, that how societies of the past were and what were the reasons why they continued and what were the reasons why they changed. So this is what is you study in history. Now, according to Wright Mills, C. Wright, W-R-I-G-H-T, C. Wright, W-R-I-G-H-T, and M-I-L-L. So according to C. Wright Mills, the sociological imagination is very essential. What do you call it? Quintessential. Those who are preferring heavy words. Is very essential, or sine qua non, जो भी बोलना चाहे, is very essential for analyzing any given society of present or past. Of present or past. ये एक एडिशनल राइटअप है, वहाँ पे आप सोशोलॉजिकल इमेजिनेशन पे बहुत नहीं लिख सकते हैं एग्जाम में, but then even you can write that as a note. You can write the sociological imagination. The sociological imagination. In fact, that was the name of his book. The sociological imagination. Sociological imagination refers to that capacity of observer, that capacity of, or that ability of observer to establish a connection between, to establish a connection or relationship, a connection between individual experiences, and the larger society. Larger society. So it helps to understand, that why people behave, in a particular situation, based upon social structure. This sociological imagination is helpful. In understanding the relationship between चाहे तो 1 2 3 करके लिख सकते हैं, ऐसे ही relationship between individual and social structure, Second, the factors responsible for continuity or challenging continuity. Factors responsible for continuity or challenging continuity. Sometimes you want to change. Simple, isn't it? Continuity. So, in fact, there are days when you really want that thing should change. So, what are those things? ऐसा क्या हो गया है कि you want it to change? You want it to come to an end now. In fact, पता नहीं, I know this generation doesn't like books a lot. I'm not saying all of them, I don't want to generalize it, but a sizable of them. Though there are voracious readers, I have seen youngsters buying Das Capital. So I was surprised, are you going to read it? So I really asked that fellow at Om Bookshop, I said, are you going to read this book or are you just buying for the buying sake? So he said, no, I'm going to read it. I said, I really wish, I'm very happy that somebody is thinking that way. But then even, there's a very good book by Baldemar Camus. In that there's a line. The servant asked to the master, Master, where are you going? He nodded without any reply. Then he reiterated that, Master, where are you going? Master replies, I'm going away from here, this is where I'm going. I don't know whether you can cherish the line or not. So मैं यहाँ से जा रहा हूँ, वही जा रहा हूँ, यही बहुत है. I'm going away from here, this is where I'm going. I don't know, this is sometimes you want change without any reason, logic, and so and so. There must be some reason, some factor responsible for it. सो वो समझना, इसको एक अंग्रेजी में टर्म होता है स्टेटस क्यू, आई एम श्योर यू हैव हर्ड ऑफ इट. स्टेटस क्यू मीन्स द करंट स्टेटस. दोज पीपल हु बिलीव दैट स्टेटस क्यू एग्जिस्ट, they are called status quoist. So sometimes people want change. So what are the reasons? So sociological imagination helps to understand कि क्या reason रहा होगा why people want to change. So this is how we got when we say that how it helps to understand personal things versus social structure. It helps in understanding that what could be reasons of continuity and reasons for challenging continuity. And third, it also helps to understand, it also helps to understand historical context. It also helps to understand historical context of evolution of institutions. Evolutions of institutions. Right. Now this is what is needed. I can write that. Sociology and history are interdependent because without sociological imagination, history cannot be analyzed. तो फिर वो documentation हो जाएगा. Simple. History cannot be analyzed, and without history, the genesis of institutions cannot be explained. Without history, the genesis of institutions, which is कैसे बदली बनी, genesis of institutions cannot be explained. Institutions cannot be explained. So, is there any? Obviously, structuration is just in the somewhere in the middle of it. When we talk about macro or micro, Anthony Giddens is talking about structuration. Obviously, it would be wrong to say that he is saying no to C. Wright Mills, but his structuration is to understand any society. When we say macro or micro, to understand any society by understanding from both the sides. And then you should be generalizing the things on the basis of whatever your understanding is. So sociological imagination that way can provide some inputs for structuration, but that is not the objective. Objective is to make limited generalization in the given context. So he's talking about context, that in the given context we should be making limited generalization. In that way things has been done. Sociological imagination is definitely used. In fact, ये तो बहुत famous quote है पीटर बर्गर का कि you cannot understand society. मैंने आपको पहले दिन कहा था, what is sociology? A new eyes to the known world. दुनिया वही है, सिर्फ देखने का तरीका बदलेगा. कैसे बदलेगा? Because of sociological imaginations changing a bit. So when Anthony Giddens, his question is what Anthony Giddens' structuration is and what is its correlation with C. Wright Mills' sociological imagination. C. Wright Mills' sociological imagination definitely is one of the basic denomination even Anthony Giddens is not denying upon. But Anthony Giddens is saying we should understand the things in the given context. So let's put it this way, कि macro says look at the similarities, micro says look at the differences, Anthony Giddens is saying no, look at the similarities and why differences by looking at the context. So this way we are somewhere in the middle of it. And obviously while looking at the context, you will use a sociological imagination. Ki what are those contexts? In that context it has been done. Making sense? So this way we got when we talk about how they are interrelated. That is why, let's finish it. I know time हो गया है, थोड़ा speed slow थी, मुझे लगा था कि आज हो जाएगा ये, पर कोई नहीं. And that is not important in the beginning. That's why Howard, 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 that's why Howard went on saying or advocated that, that's why Howard went on saying that history is, went on saying that history is sociology of, history is sociology of or social analysis of past, while sociology is history of present. Sociology is history of present. Another key difference between sociology and history has been highlighted by Radcliffe Brown, R-A-D, Radcliffe, C-L-I-F-F-E, Radcliffe Brown, who advocated that B.R. Brown, let me check it then. I think B-R-O-W-N, no. B-R-O-W-N. All right. But as you asked, so I thought better, why not to? B-R-O-W-N. So Radcliffe Brown, who advocated that sociology is nomethetic in its approach. Sociology is nomethetic in its approach, while history is ideographic. In fact, this is a very good statement coming up. Huda is saying that, isn't structure then amalgamation of predicting the pattern, analyzing the pattern? Yes, predicting the pattern is macro, analyzing the pattern is micro, and we are somewhere in between. So we are analyzing the pattern by looking at the context, that what are those contexts, and this way we can predict that in this context this kind of behavior will come. So that's how it is, amalgamation of it. If somebody had said this way, that statement would be right. It's an amalgamation of both macro and micro. Fine. So these two are the statements. So we got one name is Radcliffe Brown, another name is of you can say Howard, and then we got very important C. Wright Mills, because history is incomplete without that. So this way we got what is correlation between history and sociology. अभी दो सब्जेक्ट और रह गए हैं, हिस्ट्री एंड साइकोलॉजी एंड हिस्ट्री एंड एंथ्रोपोलॉजी. History, psychology, history, anthropology, and loosely speaking, even history and philosophy. That how history and philosophy are interconnected. And then very important is sociology and common sense. In fact, now I would like to ask you something, as it has been 5-6 classes now. I think it was sixth class. I think by and now we are in a situation to judge. Is this methodology fine with you? When I'm going here and there also, so that you develop your subject, or it should be something nahi sir to the point ki haan bas, because again look, the questions are not being asked that way. Questions are there within the given framework, but not something that is the cause of B. Especially if they are asking it very straightforward, tab to theek hai, lekin when they are asking sum of analysis, you should have your own understanding also. That's why I'm trying to develop that eventually, और ये आगे भी बहुत जगहों पे काम आएगा. And if you got that understanding, sometime you can make a fair guess also, even in the examination hall, what to write. So I look, the classroom is yours. It's not mine. It's not Vision's either. And you should be very specific to your purpose. I hope I'm making sense. Is this fine, or you want a change key? We should be more kind of ki, हाँ, I'm coming, dictating and giving you notes. फिर तो वो तो किताब में है ही है. So, yes. I'm asking you, is a question that, is this methodology fine, or you want to change it? By and large, anyone who want to? Anyone who believe that some kind of, because look, I hope you're knowing it, ki initial phases mein these inputs are important, because we are going to talk for the next, let's say 45, 50 classes, so it's very important. हाँ, मैं फिर कह रहा हूँ कि there may be new words, and the only thing you have to remember is the thinker's name. इसलिए मैं बार बार बोल रहा हूँ उनका नाम. I'm repeatedly saying them, so that you get some familiarity with them. Some familiarity with them, that who they are, what they are saying, what are the key things. And trust me, by the time, acha, very good. Mukul is saying status quo voted. He has the capability to use the, this is very good. That's how, in fact, धीरे धीरे मेटाफरिक आप हो जाते हो. आपको लगता होगा कि ये जो अच्छा लिखते हैं, इतना अच्छा कैसे लिख लेते हैं. Once you're free, जब आपने नोटिस किया कि जब आप साइकिल चलाने से डर रहे थे ना, तब साइकिल चलाना मुश्किल था. अब तो बात भी कर लेते हैं, साइकिल भी चला लेते हैं, और एक आध तो झपकी भी ले लेते हैं. You can do that because now you're confident. So वो आपके अंदर ह्यूमर, आपके अंदर राइटिंग स्किल्स या मेटाफोरिक यूज, वो तब आता है once you are confident of the content. Once you know that, okay fine, content I have, तो आप देखोगे आपकी ऑडिटरी अपने आप बेहतर हो जाती है. You have not to work upon it. So वो gradually it will come. That's why I request you कि कुछ भी नया मिल रहा है उसको आप ऐड करिए. Make a list of the things separately, which you can use not only in here, at other places also. That would be so. But as I told you कि अगर आप whatever we are saying and what is written in the classroom, अगर आपने सिर्फ उतना ही focus कर लिया, तो trust me, you will be 150 plus in paper 1. 150, 160 is achievable. और वो एक बड़ी जर्नी है. और वो फिर मैं कोशिश ये भी कर रहा हूँ कि whatever we are discussing, it should be useful elsewhere also. So in paper 4, paper 2, जो एक domain बनता है जहाँ पे आप थोड़ा सा edge ले सकते हो. So this is it for today. From the next class onwards, we'll try to expedite a bit. Thank you. And I hope the class was worth your time. Thank you.